Starowa Gora is a sleepy village located near the city of Łódź in central Poland and was the hometown of the Bogdanski family. 3 generations lived under the same roof. 42-year-old businessman Krzysztof Bogdanski, his 44-year-old wife Bożena, their 2 children, 16-year-old Malgosia and 12-year-old Jakub, and his mother, Danuta. Krzysztof and Bożena met at technical college and married after a few years of dating. They lived in Łódź before deciding to build a house of their own in Starowa Gora, with some financial help from Bożena's parents, who gifted them a plot of land for the development. Krzysztof was very successful with his business, where he sold various computer components, and as a result of this, the Bogdanskis were able to buy an expensive car and managed to send their children to private schools, where both children excelled academically. A short time prior to their mysterious disappearance in April 2003, Bogdanski's 66-year-old mother, Danuta, had a stroke. Therefore, Krzysztof, who had been solely raised by his mother, decided to take care of her at his home. By all accounts, the family, who regularly attended church, appeared to be happy and in a good place, and despite their increasing wealth, they appeared to be down-to-earth and sensible spenders, but behind closed doors, they were anything but. Following the millennium, Krzysztof's computer store started to suffer when products from China flooded onto the market, and larger companies could sell them at much better prices than he could. Despite his business suffering, Krzysztof was very tech-savvy and did what he could to make ends meet by selling pirated copies of video games and computer softwares, as well as services to unblock phones. The family were used to living lavishly, so when this business also failed, and some stocks they had invested in didn't profit as much as they were predicted, they started to ask friends and family for financial help. The family didn't want to sacrifice their standard of living just to make ends meet, but found themselves struggling. A week before Easter of 2003, Bożena called her sister, also named Danuta, asking for some money, telling her that she was, quote, in trouble, but did not elaborate any further. The sisters planned to meet each other to discuss the situation, but when her sister arrived at the house to meet her on April 11th, 2003, rather oddly, she wasn't at home. This worried Bożena's sister greatly, but even more so when she saw Krzysztof at the property alone through a window. She went up the drive and met him there. However, he seemed agitated and did not invite her in. He allegedly became increasingly aggressive when asked about Bożena's whereabouts and told her sister to, quote, mind her own business and to, quote, stop being paranoid. He then proceeded to ask her to leave after voicing his frustration at her showing up unannounced. Bożena's sister tried calling numerous times, but all of the phones appear to be switched off. Initially, she thought that maybe due to roaming charges and the fact they would be calling from a foreign country that contact would be too expensive. However, she had a gut feeling that something was wrong. A few days passed and their father, Tadeusz, also visited the property, but when inquiring as to his daughter's whereabouts, Krzysztof, who was visibly stressed, told him that Bożena had taken the children to Wrocław to attend a course for future travel agency owners and to go sightseeing. This didn't appear untrue, as he and his wife had discussed a new tourist office business venture. He then told him that he was to join them in a few days, where they would travel to Germany for a vacation and visit some friends there, sharing his disappointment that the family would no longer be able to come for Easter breakfast with his in-laws. He also told Bożena's father that the family would be gone for an unspecified amount of time and didn't know when they would be back, but he did mention that they also intended to spend Christmas with their German friends, despite it only being April at this point, though this may have referenced another planned trip. It appeared that Krzysztof also called a number of friends and acquaintances of various family members, telling them that they could no longer follow through with various plans as they were headed to Germany. On April 18th, Krzysztof spoke with a neighbour and relayed this story to them, also stating that his mother was in Łódź staying with friends. He also told the neighbour that he was finishing up painting the attic before going to meet his family. The neighbour cited that nothing appeared out of the ordinary. However, this was the last time anyone saw Krzysztof Bogdanski alive. However, on April 20th, Easter Sunday, Bożena's sister decided to take matters into her own hands, so decided to contact the friends who lived in Germany whom the Bogdanskis were supposed to visit. But the phone call left her shocked when the friends stated that they had no plans for the Bogdanskis to visit them anytime soon and hadn't heard from them in years. On May the 8th, 2003, Polish authorities began investigating the disappearance of the Bogdanski family after they were reported missing. From the outside, nothing appeared awry. All of the family members were well liked and weren't involved in any criminal activities, so their disappearance raised many concerns. As a result, Polish police decided to visit the Bogdanski residence to investigate, looking for any clues which could indicate the family's whereabouts, or at least establish if they had come to harm. Searching the property, everything appeared to be in order, with nothing out of place. There were dishes in the sink and fresh food in the fridge, which suggested that the family had every intention of returning, though the room did smell of rotten garbage which had not been taken outside. It should also be noted that Bożena's favourite sweater was sitting on the arm of a chair in the living room. When searching through their belongings, nothing is missing, other than 12-year-old Jakub's favourite pair of pyjamas. Oddly, his asthma medication and even his grandmother's medication remained in the property, which seems very strange if they were taking a trip and didn't know when they would be back. Jakub even had a scheduled doctor's appointment at the end of April for his allergies. Some oddities were found, however. This included the fact that all mobile phones and passports belonging to each family member could not be located, and even more suspiciously, the hard drives of all of the laptops and computers in the home had been completely wiped. No money was found either, other than Małgosia's purse, which was in her bedroom along with her diary, which did detail her concerns about her family's financial woes. Rather interestingly, Małgosia mentioned her father's friend in her diary as having, quote, crossed the line, though whether this meant over a border or as in doing something bad remains to be seen. A number of her diary entries appear to be written in some sort of code, though most of the inscriptions were typical teen thoughts. Various forensic teams scoured the property from top to bottom with thermal imaging cameras, with the help of cadaver dogs, but nothing of interest was found, other than 2 small traces of blood which were found in the garage and adjacent to Danuta's bedroom. The attic had been freshly painted, as Krzysztof had told his neighbour, and nothing of interest was found there. But was this a simple renovation, or was it done to hide potential clues or evidence which would indicate the fate of the Bogdanskis? There was no evidence of a break-in or anything to indicate foul play. Murder was initially theorised, but there was zero evidence of such a crime having occurred and no evidence of any sort of clean-up. Searches for the family were conducted across the country, including analysing weeks' worth of CCTV footage from local gas stations and even hospitals and care homes, but no trace of them were found. Authorities in Germany assisted in the investigation also, however their efforts also proved to be fruitless. When looking into the family's finances, a rather disturbing picture was painted. According to financial documentation, Krzysztof had racked up debts of over 1 million zloty, approximately $246,000. The family had maxed out their debit and credit cards, overdrafts and loans, which had been completely run dry a short time prior to the family's disappearance, with a number of loan companies chasing them up for fraudulent activities, with the loans being used against the mortgage payments. It also came to light that Krzysztof had recently sold the family car for 60,000 zloty to a mechanic that he owed money to. According to various Polish news outlets, the family were being investigated for loan fraud, and international arrest warrants were issued for both Krzysztof and Bożena and his mother Danuta, as all were liable parties. Was Krzysztof worried about the ramifications of his disastrous financial decisions which left him in ruin, and therefore wanted to rid his debt by vanishing into thin air? Several posts about this case also mentioned that Krzysztof had asked an acquaintance about how to go about getting fake documentation, which further fuels the theory that the family decided to start a new life under new identities in order to escape their debts. No evidence was found of any of the Bogdanskis crossing the Polish border though, and Danuta did not have a passport. No travel tickets or visas were bought either under any of their names, though they could have been using false identities. Bożena was extremely close to her family, so for her to disappear of her own free will with her husband and children seems very unlikely. Did she abandon her old life under duress, or was something more sinister at play? Some believe that Krzysztof perhaps borrowed money from a loan shark, or perhaps gambled and borrowed from someone in the criminal underworld, which forced them to flee the country. However, this theory is once again unfounded. Another theory suggests a possible murder-suicide, similar to the theories suggested in the infamous Dupont de Ligonnès case, which bears striking similarities to this case. A man from an affluent background disappears following financial collapse, ruining his reputation and the family name. He disposes of his family and takes his own life following this. It certainly seems like extended suicide is a possibility here, especially given so much time between Bożena's last known contact and the last sighting of Krzysztof, giving plenty of time to be rid of any remains and or evidence. But like all other theories, it lacks any credible evidence. Many do question, however, why Krzysztof was home alone for several days, and where were his family during this time? It's another question in this baffling case which sadly remains unanswered. Relatives of the Bogdanski family firmly believe that the five are still out there alive somewhere, with a clairvoyant telling them that they are alive but do not wish to contact anyone. Bożena's elderly mother still tends to the family home and garden, which was her daughter's pride and joy. She awaits some sort of sign or word from her daughter or grandchildren, who would now be adults, and hopes that someday she will have answers. Polish law enforcement agree that they haven't faced such a baffling disappearance case since the end of the Second World War, and have stacks upon stacks of files in regards to the Bogdanski family vanishing. 20 years on, and authorities are still left perplexed by this unusual case, a seemingly ordinary family disappearing off the face of the earth, leaving no trail behind. What truly happened to the Bogdanski family remains shrouded in mystery to this day.